super excited to have two executives from Pfizer who have been at the front lines of digital health, not just for the last few years, but for a couple of decades now, and really understand digital health at its core. And Gati's smiling. I know, Gati, you don't look a couple of decades old. You're fine, but it's true. You've been out there. You have a ton of experience. The audience here is excited to hear about both of what you can bring in terms of insights and perspectives on this equation around women's health and mental health. Gati, if you could start off with a 1-minute bio for the audience, and then you can follow her.
Sure. No, thank you, Stan. Gati Dharani, I'm part of Pfizer's digital innovation team. I've been working with Pfizer's key business leaders like Jen Alper, who's on, to really identify opportunities where tech can be an enabler for impact and change, whether it's for our patients, for the physicians that we work with to get the right product to patients, or in our clinical trials. So that's been the focus of my work. I've been really excited to be partnering with Jen and her team on the women's health initiatives happening at Pfizer, because we all know there's so much to be done. We women deserve exceptional care, and we're getting, I would say, subpar care today. So how do we use tech to promote better health for women and ultimately for families and society as a whole? I'll pass it to my colleague, Jen.
Super. Thank you, Jen.
Excellent. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for that warm welcome and introduction, Gati, as well. Hi, Jen Alper. I am the lead of the Pfizer Women's Health portfolio across menopause. I've been at Pfizer for 15 years in various leadership roles spanning US, global, amongst oncology, primary care. And prior to my current role, I was in the marketing transformation group. Very excited to be here today to share two of my passions, one of which is the importance of women as a primary, distinct customer group with whom we should be really focused on. And second, the use of digital tools to help enable and reach those customers. So looking forward to the conversation, Stan.
That's fantastic. And Jen, maybe you could take this question to start with, but can you talk a little bit more about how awareness for women's health is changing from your perspective in the US and around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll speak a little bit broadly to start. I think it's becoming much more clear, certainly at Pfizer, that women are the primary consumers of healthcare. I heard that in the previous talk, so we are very much focused there as well. Overall, I think there's a lot of awareness that women are generally underserved in the healthcare system as well. Takes longer to get diagnosed, takes longer to get treatment, regardless of the disease state. However, as it relates to my world, in the menopause portfolio, menopause is having a bit of a moment right now. Internally, we talk a little bit about how menopause is hot. Gone are the days of stigmatized women's conditions that we didn't really speak about in polite company, so to speak. Women broadly are expressing their discontent with how menopause, and quite frankly, many other conditions, are being deprioritized or being stigmatized. We're hearing from women online, we're hearing from women in person, and this generation is taking control of this very incorrect and hollow narrative, rebranding midlife. Some are creating wellness companies, telehealth companies focused on women's health, as you know, many other digital focused companies, even large companies as well. CVS, very focused on women's health, and a number of other companies as well. And in the menopause space, there's an increased hunger for information, for action. You may have seen there's been a number of New York Times articles. Oprah just led a conversation called the Menopause Talk. There's 58 million postmenopausal women in the US, and the vast majority, 85%, experience symptoms related to menopause. So all this to say that awareness for women's health is changing, in that there is an awareness around a focus on women's health, and there is an awareness that women want to be treated differently and really want to take control of their health.
That's incredible. Yeah, and clearly the numbers are staggering, right? We do see just how, not only in terms of the numbers and the volumes, the dollars that are out there, but also the outcomes and how poor they are, with the biggest one being 38th ranked in maternal mortality care. And so, Gati, jumping over to the strategy and the innovation side of what's going on here, can you speak to the audience a little bit about digital health and how it's helping drive some of these improvements around women's health and mental health?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm sure you've all heard the term femtech, and so that became, a big trend area when you look at the investor community. So the VCs, academia, and the accelerators were really focusing in on building out cohorts of companies that were tech-enabled to support women in their health journey. I think the word femtech actually takes away, however, from how we can actually support women, because it's not just about reproductive health, right? It's not just about fertility treatments and menopause and endometriosis. I mean, those are all very important areas where women need support. But if you look at how Jen described it as women as a distinct channel, we are disproportionately affected by many diseases. We experience many diseases differently. I think you've probably heard the anecdote or the stat that women were actually not enrolled into clinical trials until the early 1990s. And I can say I haven't been around for so many decades, but I was around for that decade, which means that I'm taking drugs that actually were not actually tested on women at some point in time. And there's more and more work being done to increase the diversity in clinical trials, both from a gender standpoint, but then also from racial and diversity standpoint. So I think that when we talk about the tech sector in general, and we talk about women's health in general, the money is going where the need is and the want is, and that want is in this women's health space. There's more and more companies entering into Series B, Series C, in approaching very large exits, companies that I work closely with. So it's a really exciting time in the industry. And I think that, Stan, you also mentioned mental health. I mean, that's a huge component also when you think about the life cycle of any patient journey, right? As you're managing any disease area, we need to make mental health a huge part of that patient support service. And I think tech has the ability to do that at mass scale. And at a price point that works for the patients we're trying to support.
That's 100% correct, right? And that really does go toward the heart of what we're trying to achieve. And Jen, talk a little bit about that. We talked a little bit in the first hour about empathy and how and Amy West was on from Novo Nordisk, who heads up digital transformation at Novo US, and she was talking about really needing to come from a point of empathy, and that's obviously something that both you and Gati embody as a part of this movement, really within Pfizer and around the world. What is it that you see in terms of the need for people, whether it's the people in the audience who are with other manufacturers or digital health startups or investors? Where does empathy come in, and how do they gain more empathy, more context to develop better solutions, to invest in better solutions, to buy better solutions, to deploy across the enterprise?
One way I think that we can develop better empathy is putting ourselves specifically in the customer's shoes, and the execution of that is around targeting. So if you're targeting the female population, micro-targeting different types of women depending on where they are. So rather than having a broad-based sort of patient strategy, having micro strategies so that we understand the specifics of where patients are coming from. Because I think the campaign, the messaging, the execution could be very different depending on who specifically you're talking about, what type of patient you're talking to, what type of female you're talking to make sure that you really understand those needs. And we can get there with data and a real deep understanding. The sort of marrying of data with deep customer insights and understanding, I think, is a real win. The second thing I would say is just recognizing the differences in the female population for some of these disease states, and certainly this is the case in menopause, around broadly how we are speaking to patients. So one example is, in all of our DTC advertising, it's talk to your doctor, talk to your doctor. Well, what we're finding in the menopause space and in the women's health space is that many times physicians have been engaging with their physician, but are being, put to the side and sort of saying, well, maybe you do need a therapy, maybe not. And so empathy really starts with understanding the patient and understanding what they're going through so that we can adapt our messaging.
That's spot on. Yeah, that is absolutely critical. And Gati, certainly want to follow up on the empathy question for you as well, but would love to know more about some of what you've seen in terms of where the audience, the people that are listening now and will listen in the future, where are some of the areas where we can all improve on building digital health platforms and building, better digital health technologies to help scale women's health that's out there?
Yeah, no, I think it starts with like Jen said, where the customer is and where the pain point is. I think we've done a lot of research. Jen's team has done some great patient research, even just non-pharma related customer research to understand where are those pain points in the women's health journey. And a lot of times it's caregiver burden or lack of societal support to actually manage their own disease on top of everything else that they're doing. So I think it's trying to understand the holistic experience of the patients that we're looking to support, and in this case, women. Often they're entering menopause at the same time as they're really advancing in their career or have children or are becoming caregivers to elderly parents. So it's kind of this trifecta that hits women around these age groups. So how do we support more at a systems level? So in addition to their healthcare and providing them tech solutions and services, going to employers and saying, here's an amazing tech-enabled community for your employees of a certain age range that might be perimenopause or menopausal to go into, where they can speak to other women like them who are advancing in their career and don't want to stop just because they're experiencing this life event. So I think it's going beyond the tech, and beyond the products that we're looking to sell, but understanding that whole experience of a woman, where she's at when she's affected by these various conditions and diseases. And then it goes all the way to the end of life, right? I mean, women are disproportionately affected by rheumatoid arthritis, by osteoporosis, et cetera. So how do we support women as they age and as they gain more access to medical needs? How do we help them with technology to drive them through those comorbidities as well?
That's great. And Jen, we look at resources that are out there. Obviously, you both are experts in this. Where would you tell our audience to go to dig deeper into this and to find more resources in this area?
So I can speak specifically to the resources, the patient resources across the women's health franchise. However, I would say broadly, when developing or looking for patient resources, I always think that advocacy organizations, women's health advocacy organizations, are an excellent source of data and information for patients. And very often, we at Pfizer will partner with certain advocacy organizations to ensure that we are speaking with the right tone, the right information, making sure that we are partnering together on the various disease states. So first and foremost, I would say advocacy is an excellent resource. But specifically within my world, in the women's health franchise and menopause, we have number of resources across menopause, uterine fibroids, endometriosis. There's certainly your traditional DTC focus, sort of online social adherence programs, access support programs, all things like that to ensure a positive customer experience. We also have a uterine health guide, which is a call to action for menstrual awareness, understanding when patients should flag their flow, and Menopause Unmuted, which is a podcast hosted by Jane Minkin to raise awareness, encourage communication, and share information among patients. But broadly, even these resources that I'm mentioning, we have really a history at Pfizer of partnering with advocacy organizations to ensure we have the right content to share with our patients.
That's fantastic. And I think, that really is the kind of the resources that people are looking for. And we've already got a couple of questions in the chat box around resources around menopause and things like that. And Gati, any other resources? Again, both these folks coming in around menopause and looking for more information around not only just where to get more information on menopause, but also how to reduce stigma around menopause. Any advice for them there, Gati?
No, I think it's just more awareness building, helping women have conversations with their practitioners and understand their own symptomology, empowering them with that knowledge. Same goes for uterine fibroids, for example. I mean, they're grossly underdiagnosed. Often patients don't know they've lived with them their whole life and have been in immense pain. They just thought it was normal, part of their menstrual cycle. It's not until they're in a surgical ward for ovarian cancer, they're like, oh, by the way, you have uterine fibroids. So like this lack of information that's just so pervasive, and I think it's partially because of the stigma around the conversations related to women's health. If we can start breaking down those barriers, having more open dialogue and discussions, and creating these communities for women to give them the language and the literacy to talk to their practitioners, I think that's the start of the whole movement.
It's fantastic. Well, Gati, Jen, thank you both for joining us today. Just tremendous observations and just context and brilliance added to what people are really trying to help promote and support and grow. So thank you both for joining us today.